I'm Eleni Kelakos, otherwise known as the Speaker Whisperer, and I am going to be on the Online Prosperity Show talking about what it takes to bring real, genuine, palpable magnetic presence to high stress spotlight moments like speeches or pitches or any moment when you want your idea to move out into the world without fear and with great confidence.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're going to be diving into the art of commanding the stage and owning your voice. So if you have ever felt like maybe your message isn't landing or your present isn't as impactful as you'd like, I think this episode is going to be your turning point. And joining us for this is the incomparable Eleni. Now, Eleni, how are you doing today?
I am so good. I'm very excited to be talking to you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. Today, we're going to be learning how to speak with confidence and charisma, and also helping our teams into action that actually drives results. And not only that, we're going to be exploring your journey and everything else that you have done along the way. And they call you the speaker whisperer, right?
Yes, I'm very proud of that. I love that. I am the speaker whisperer.
Absolutely.
I see that as being, partly what I'm here to do is just help people find their voice, put that voice out into the world without apology.
I love
without
that.
playing small around it,
I
the
love
speaker
that.
whisperer.
And for those that are watching right now, Eleni has graced the stages of New York and Hollywood as a professional actress and a singer-songwriter, to now helping coaching executives at Fortune 500 companies to master the craft of authentic communication. Now, for a lot of us, we have to speak in front of our audiences, we have to speak in front of our teams, we have to speak in front of our investors or whatever stakeholders that will be in front of us. And if you are not able to hold your own, then maybe you might just end up like what Eleni did again at some point when she was asked to.
oh, you're bringing up one of my biggest failures. But we learn from these things. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about one of my earliest gigs as a young actress and singer in New York City. And I was asked to sing the national anthem at a Mets game at Shea Stadium at the time. And this was huge. I was a big baseball fan. So I got all dressed up, in my finest. And I get there and I'm put in this holding area. I am within, touching distance of the players. This is great. I mean, this is very wonderful for me. And as I'm standing there contemplating the microphone that's out near the pitcher's mound, thinking, that is my mic. I'm going to be singing at that microphone really soon. I feel this little tip, 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 tip on my shoulder, and I turn, and there's this grizzled old groundskeeper. And he looks up at me, and he says, did you know that the great Broadway singer, Robert Goulet, forgot the words to the national anthem? Robert Goulet. And then he opens this little gate and he ushers me out into the field. And I'm now like, oh my God, right? I mean, obviously, I'm now thinking, I'm going to forget the words just like Robert Goulet. If Robert Goulet forgot them, I will too. And I march up to that microphone and I open my mouth and I start to sing. There I am. And I sing, oh, say, can you? Actually, and it's more like, Oh, say, because there's this delay, right, between what I sing and what I hear back. There are these massive speakers, and it's, oh my God, it's so off-putting, right? It's like this delay, the sound, it's huge. Okay. So okay. Back on track. I keep going. Oh my God, Robert Goulet forgot the words. No, I keep going. What so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad
Oh
st-
no.
stars and bright star. And I do it, Prosper. Right then and there, I screw up the lyrics to the
Oh
national anthem in
no.
front of, by the way, 34,000 people. And they're all singing. They all know the song. They know the lyrics.
But
It was
you
bad.
actually, oh man,
Yeah,
34,000 people. That's a lot. Now,
it's
obviously,
a lot.
you went on and turned this moment of panic into resilience and presence. And I can't wait to jump into that. But my question now is, when this grounds person said that to you, is that the equivalent of, the stage hand saying break a leg?
No, it wasn't. It felt a little more malicious. I have never understood why he said that to me.
Absolutely.
I mean, it felt like he was deliberately trying to throw me or something, and it did. I had no skill sets at that time to manage that kind of thing. I didn't know. I just seized up with anxiety, or as I like to say, I sphinctered up. I
Mm.
just tensed, and my mind immediately, my little inner judgers, I call them Mo and Schmo, they got very active in my head, and I started second guessing myself.
Oh no.
And that's what fear will do. And honestly, after that, I had to manage my auditions and performances. I was constantly worried I was going to forget my lines, mess up. I had to work on it. And I did what every good actress does. I went to class. I went to a good acting class with master level teachers, and they helped me learn how to manage my performance anxiety, my adrenaline, how to be present, Prosper, how to be present in high stakes scenarios, how to breathe and relax and be in my body and not in my head where those little judgers lived.
No.
And honestly, that, thank God for that, because those are the same tools that I've been using for years with my clients.
No, Eleni, I mean, obviously, you had done something to be able to get to that position of being on that microphone. Take us a little bit way back to what was happening before this fateful day, because you just don't end up at a microphone like this with such a huge crowd and a
Yeah.
story to tell.
Well, for one thing, I was a little born diva. I was one of those little kids that I loved being in front of people. And I discovered it was fun to sing in front of a crowd when I was 11 and at camp. And I sang a solo all by myself, and the audience sang along with me and applauded. And, that was it for me. So starting from then, I got involved in on as many stages, plays, choirs, choruses. I loved that world. I felt safe there. I was actually a shy little girl, but being on a stage gave me a freedom that I hadn't had. And in a way, I allowed myself to show up there. And so I knew ultimately that I would wind up being in that world. And I was very fortunate. I got great roles all growing up in high school and college. And then I went to New York City, and how I found my way to that stadium was somebody had heard me sing at some little club in New York, and they recommended me to the person who ran something called the Dutch Treat Club, which was a literary club that had been held monthly in New York City for years and years and years. And they always had a well-known speaker come, And then they had an up and coming entertainer come. And I was the up and coming entertainer. And the speaker was a man named Frank Cashin. And he was, at the time, the general manager of the Mets. And I sang a couple of songs. And he said, when he got up there to speak, I thought Eleni was great. And I think she should sing the national anthem at Shea Stadium. And I marched right up to him afterwards and we exchanged cards. I knew even then, I wasn't about to let him get away with not asking me to do it once he had made the declaration. And he was as good as his word. And that's how that happened. Absolutely. That's how those things happen, but you have to be able to be showing up. I mean, I was at that club performing, right? Someone heard me. I said yes to this gig, right? It happened to be in front of someone who liked what he heard and was in a position to hire me. And I took advantage of it. I walked up to him, shook his hand, exchanged cards, and then I made the phone call to the offices of the Mets. I followed through. And I learned early on that that's what it takes.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us all the way back. Now, you introduced us to Eleni, who is 11 at camp, and obviously that's a very formidable age for you to have gotten into your own space. Now, maybe you can let us know what sort of support you had, because such confidence stems from a place of the people around you, especially the adults around you, giving you that confidence and egging on, or maybe mentorship, or you probably had a reference point where you saw it somewhere and you figured this could be what I wanted to do.
My parents, and my mother in particular, were really supportive of me in this regard. My mother was a visual artist and a creative, and she saw that in me too. We had a shared soul that way. And my parents, I was a good student, Prosper. I was good in school as well. And my parents really, they pretty much helped me understand that if I could see it in my head, I could create it. I could have it. So I was raised with this notion that if I worked hard, I came from a hardworking family, second generation Greek Americans here, it was about putting the work in, and I did. I mean, they supported my dream in the sense that they helped me when I said I wanted to go to a college that had a good program in theater. They ultimately, my father and mother, they ultimately supported me. When I said I wanted to go to New York City, that's scary. That's a scary place when you're young and you're going to go by yourself. But my father sat me down and said, I know you can do this. We're here if you need us, always, right? Plus, I had some great mentors along the way. I had some great theater directors in both high school and in Dick Rousseau, I think always in Canton High School in Massachusetts. I had a teacher when I was living in Israel, going to school there because of my dad's job, Mr. Bick. He was transformative for me. He was an English teacher there, but he had lived and worked in this place called Greenwich Village in New York. I knew about that. I heard about that, and he believed in me as a performer even then. So I had it in my mind, and my father had taken my family to New York when I was fairly young, and we went to Radio City Music Hall and saw a big spectacle, and I felt a kinship with the place. So when I went to university, I went to Brown University, there was a mentor there, Jim Barnhill. He was the head of the department. He took a shine to me. He supported me in every which way. He cast me in a really important musical. It was called Man of La Mancha, in a wonderful part. And he helped give me a sense of confidence in what I could do. So all along the way, I had these teachers and people who supported me, saw me, put some wind under my sails, you know? And when I moved to New York, I kept in touch with Jim Barnhill, my theater director. We actually wrote letters to each other. He wrote to me and told me, you have a good head on your shoulders and your feet are grounded. Hang out with good people. Look for the good people and you'll be okay. And I did. I made friends. I did what it took, you know, Prosper. I did everything it took to get to know the community there and to find my way as an actor. Was it easy? No, it was unbelievably hard for me. Harder than I ever figured because I'd been so spoiled getting every role I ever went after. I'm 6 feet tall. Yeah. And as I discovered in the world of professional theater, especially in New York and, well, in LA, if they're looking for a 5'2¾" blonde woman with one brown eye and one purple eye who can do somersaults and is a coloratura soprano who can juggle with her right foot, she's there. My competition was a lot stiffer, and they were shorter than me, and the men were shorter than me too. So I would very often get told, you're too tall. We're not going to cast you. You're really talented and you got a great look, but you're too tall. So that set me back. And I had to learn to manage that, much like I did that Shea Stadium moment. That's when I started really working on my mindset. I had to think differently. Instead of thinking you're too tall to get cast, I began to think I love my height. It's perfect for roles that require presence and authority, like starship commanders or, you know, attorneys, people in charge. And that helped. Also, I got a pair of really tall high heels. Really tall. I figured if I was going to be tall, I might as well be
Might as well
tall.
Go all the way.
And well, you know, I started to really embrace that. And I started to try to figure out instead of waiting for other people to cast me, I started trying to figure out how I could give myself the satisfaction of work. That's how I made that shift to being a singer and songwriter, actually. Tangentially through creating a one-woman show for myself and realizing that there was some power in my own hands in crafting a place where my voice could be heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see, so many people would have looked at all of that and thought it was rocks being thrown at them, but used them as a staircase to obviously where you were going to be placing yourself. But let's just go back a little bit. I mean, obviously, you've introduced us to this born diva who's, you know, in an environment that's very supportive, and obviously that would nurture your your talent and wanting to explore that. But being a second generation Greek migrant, was there any expectation on your part to actually perform,
To actually what?
to succeed from the family?
To succeed. There was a huge amount of pressure to succeed in a general sense.
Right.
My father, who came from a background that, you know, he came from really, he used to say, the slums of Lowell, Massachusetts. You know, he came here with he was just a tiny boy. I believe he was born in the U.S., but, you know, he lived in very poor surroundings, and they were determined to bootstrap themselves up. They were entrepreneurial. You know, my grandfather started his own barber shop, for example. My aunts worked there. My father swept the hair off of the floor. You know, they worked very hard. The expectation was that the kids somehow, the boys in particular, would go, if possible, to college, and they worked to do that. My uncles in my dad's family went to school, to college. My aunts did not. And my father was determined to make up for that and have me go to college. And my brother certainly to go to college. Education was really big where I came from. It was huge. It was the deciding factor. So to be honest with you, my father was not really delighted that I chose the path that I did in terms of where I think he would have felt more comfortable. He was a scientist. He would have probably felt more comfortable had I chosen something that had more stability. You know, I think he was worried for me. But to his credit, he supported me. I mean, it was hard for him, I know, but I think he felt I helped her have a really good education. I went to a really good college. And I think he felt after that, I've given her roots and wings. Let's see what she does.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, this really paints a really good picture because now we are in front of that Met Stadium, 34,000 people that are waiting to get started on the game. And obviously, they have to do the proceedings, and you are there trying to obviously sing the national anthem, and that didn't happen. I mean, with the background of all that support and maybe just having had the one person who sort of tripped you on your way to the stage, which is that groundsman, do you think that pressure of you wanting to also succeed and prove something to everybody else who might have not have had the confidence in that what you were doing was
Yeah.
what the while would have also contributed to that one moment where you lost the words?
What an excellent question. When I think back, one thing my father said when I was debating what college to go to. One was a professional school, theater school, and I had to audition to get in. They took very few people, and they chose me. It was huge for me. The
Congratulations.
other one was a very, very good school, Brown University. My father really wanted me to go there. And I have to tell you, I wanted to go to the other school. And I overheard my dad say these words: "That girl has stars in her eyes. Doesn't she realize that there are other people out there who are better than she is?"
Right.
Now, he said that, and those are the kinds of words that sit in your soul. And the question you ask me makes me think that no doubt that I was, when I was triggered by that groundskeeper, I'm sure that deep down inside, the shadow of those words was present. Am I going to be good enough? Always the need to excel, do my absolute best. It has been a challenge for me and one of my goals to let go of perfection and instead embrace excellence, knowing that it's okay to be imperfect, not perfect, human, flawed even, and that all performances are not going to be perfect. All you can do is the best you can and be as prepared as you can be. I learned that the hard way. And that event was absolutely a starting point for me to begin to humbly understand that and learn what I needed to learn to manage it.
Because from then on, you then really took on this career and started studying and immersed yourself into the arts of it all, which now you are sharing with the executives that you're helping with their communication. Maybe you can walk us through the actual learnings and the findings of that particular time and what then sort of happened up until you discovered this is not me. I'm gonna have to teach other people how to be doing have obviously
Yes.
communication skills like this.
I had a couple of really excellent acting teachers, but in New York City, the very first one I went to, his name was Warren Robertson. And Warren, I did my very first acting class scene for him. That's a big deal. that's my first professional acting class scene. So imagine you've got about 40 peers watching you. And I was a nervous wreck. I honestly, when Warren, who was sitting way in the back in the dark, used to speak through a microphone like the voice of God, And he said to Eleni, "How do you think you did?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm thinking I have no clue. I had an out of body experience up there. I barely remembered my lines and hit my mark. I mean, I don't know, but I didn't say that. I said, "Oh, I thought I did. I thought it was fine. I thought I did okay." And he said, Prosper, and I quote, "Really? Well, I didn't think so."
Mm.
He said, "I was disappointed."
Oh.
I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I watched you and I thought, look at you. You have such presence. And yet all I could think of is, where is Eleni? Where are you?" It's like you were playing the idea of a character, but you weren't inhabiting it. You weren't bringing yourself to it. And he said, "We want to know you through the character. We want to know what you think, believe, feel. We want that expression of you in front of us. We want you." He said, "Dare to be you, Eleni." He said, "Dare to show up." And I had no idea how to do that. I really felt that I had to be almost being something I wasn't, because probably I felt that what I wasn't enough. That was where I began to realize that what I was and what I could provide to a character or to a moment was enough, just as it was. I
Yeah.
learned that painstakingly, class after class, falling on my butt, getting back up, just really beginning to unzip myself in front of people, metaphorically speaking. So the things that I learned in that class and my further class with one of my favorite acting teachers of all time, Michael Howard. Michael, Michael told me, he said, "I will never try to change you. Look at you. Who would?" He said. "I just want to allow you the space and the tools to bring yourself out fully." So continuing in that, I learned how to get out of my own way, how to breathe, how to be physically relaxed with eyes on me, how to make bold choices, how to bring my depth of presence and feeling to the moment, how to stay in the moment instead of wiggling out of it when I felt people looking at me. Those are the things that I'm teaching my clients now. Those are the things that formulated what I call the 5 presence principles. They're at the core of my work. Know thyself is the first one. Know your blessings and your blocks, what you're really good at and what you're not so good at, because knowing both is critical. You want to magnify what you do well, and you want to get better at the things that you're not so good at, or minimize them if they're getting in the way. That includes limiting beliefs that cause limiting behaviors. And then be thyself, to take the risk to actually show people who you are. Most of the people that I work with to this day are so afraid of doing that. They're afraid that who they are is not enough. And I'm talking about high level CFOs, CEOs, people leading things. So learning how to do that with eyes on you in high stakes spotlight moments. I learned tools. Those are the ones I teach for that particular principle. And then it's prepare thyself. On my wall, you can't see it, but it says, these are my words: practice builds confidence, confidence builds presence, and presence is power. I believe that. Actors, musicians, athletes, people who have to bring themselves to the stage, so to speak, the playing field. They learn and understand the value of being prepared. Because amateurs practice until they get it right, but professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. That's a huge difference between the two. So that means making choices about the material, learning it until it becomes like a second spine that you can rely on. And it means learning how to manage the moment before you step out onto the stage, having tools and techniques that you can rely on to help you feel ready internally, to manage the little judges on your shoulder. And then there's commit thyself, and that is commit to connecting eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart with that audience of one or many, and commit to making bold choices. Ban wishy-washy. Strong, bold choices. And that, in the context of the work I do with the executives I work with, is often around improvisation, having to come up with it on the spot, right? Not backing off of something, rummaging around in the little box that you carry that is filled with everything you know right now. Coming up with something, taking your flag, planting it in it, and sharing it without apology, and that bringing that sense of confidence to the moment. And then the last is turn thyself on so you can turn other people on. I learned really early on that it was my responsibility as a performer to get my body physically ready, my energy up and ready, my voice ready, and to use whatever it took to help me do that. So I tell my clients to this day, I'm like, look, you can't ask your audience to get you to turn you on. You have to be turned on before you get out there. They want an energized, activated, alive human in front of them. And use the things that you love to help you continue to be that way in front of them. For example, if you love to tell stories, tell more stories when you're presenting. If you love to sing like I do, maybe sing a song, which I do in my keynotes, for example. Use the things that bring you to aliveness. That's an expression I like to use. Bring yourself to aliveness. So those 5 presence principles all have the seeds of what I learned, not only in class, but in every experience I had on a stage. And there were countless experiences, right? I mean, either in live theater or in performances as a singer-songwriter, little tiny stages where no one was listening, big headlining stages at festivals. So a lot of opportunity to learn and try and grow and fall down and try again and say yes to every opportunity. That's how those principles came into effect.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for going through every one of them. And the first one, really, the know thyself, because so many people show up in a space and they, like you were, acting a character, but they're not present within the actual building. You know what I mean? Maybe their mind is thinking of what they're going to be doing on vacation, or what that money they're looking for in investment is going to allow them to be. And the people that are supposed to be connected to you might also check out because they're not engaged with whatever it is that you are showcasing there. And I think in acting they call it method acting, where some people actually go to the extent of either gaining weight or losing weight just so they can be that character. So and it becomes an authentic sort of representation of who they're supposed to be portraying. But in the world of business, Eleni, I think it was what's his name? The actor. How can I forget his name? He says some people would rather Seinfeld. Some people would rather be in the cascade than be the one that is saying the eulogy. And in our instance, a lot of us fear public speaking. Well, Do you have
Yes.
any sort of strategies to help
Oh,
somebody
yes.
overcome that anxiety, especially if
Yes.
they have to improvise, like you have said?
I can't even tell you how many people I've worked with over the past 20 something years managing this. I mean, I experienced that at that singing the national anthem. Fear is debilitating. Fear makes your beautiful, charismatic presence, because that's what I call it. I believe we're all born with this beautiful, natural, charismatic presence, this attractiveness, Prosper, this magnetic quality. If you, I don't know, if you have a little baby and you're standing there looking down at that baby, you can't even tear your eyes away, and all they're doing is just being. Maybe they're blowing little spit bubbles and you can't even take your eyes off of them. They're not trying to be anything, they just are. Then they move out into the world and they start worrying about pleasing people and getting it right and being liked, and this continues in the workplace. We become really, really afraid of getting things wrong. We become hyper vigilant around that stuff. So when we step into spotlight moments, we don't want to look bad. We want to be accepted and liked. We want to be perfect. It is the worst thing that we can do to ourselves, because we can't make an outcome happen. We can only focus on what's right in front of us right now in the moment. Once you start trying to make somebody like you or be impressed by you or try to get the gig, instead of just being in the moment, honoring what you're there to do in service to the material that's in service to your audience. If you're not doing that, you're having an out-of-body experience and you're allowing yourself to let fear rule. And fear will literally make you shut down. Your body will sphincter up. It'll shut down physically. You will have all kinds of very natural reactions to fear happening. Your hands will sweat. Your heart will palpitate. You'll stumble over your words. Often people will breathe too quickly, making them rush what they're saying. And you have moments where you literally can't remember because you're being flooded with fear hormones. So you have to be able to counteract this. And the time to do it is before you step out there. And there is one small technique that I'll share that I think, it's a little thing, but it's a big thing. It's in 3 steps. I call it F as in foot, B as in breath, I as in intention. First of all, you got to know what you're there to do in service to that audience. That's what I call your intention. So that is a gimme in this. You have to know that to be able to implement FBI properly. Before you step out there, F, find the floor with your feet. Feel the floor under your feet. Close your eyes. Feel that sense of groundedness with Mother Earth. If you're zooming, do the same, but also feel the seat beneath your bottom. Feel the chair back against your back. Ground yourself. Then B. B is for breath. Bring your breath into your belly. Your breath is your best friend in these scenarios. It is what will counteract the fear. Simply put, inhaling and exhaling on a count. For example, inhaling on 4, holding for 7, exhaling on 8, and doing that for 10 times. By the time you get to around breath number 6 or 7, you'll have wrestled your fear out of the mouths of your little judgers, so to speak. It will begin to still your body. And, and if not that breathing sequence, simply follow your breath in, follow your breath out, and do this 10 times. Bring your breath into your belly. And I is to remember what your intention is, what you are there to do. I is also, by the way, even though it's not spelled that way, to remember, eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart. You're there to connect with that audience, period. You're there to connect with your eyes and your heart, to have a real experience with them. Because otherwise, who really cares? Honestly, it's just then you flapping your lips up there. This is about bringing your real self to it and having an actual real experience moment to moment. If you're willing to give yourself that FBI, by the way, is what I call R and R and R, ritual, routine, and repetition. Having some things that you do that give you comfort, right? That make you feel safe, that you do ritualistically prior to stepping out there, whatever they might be. Hitting a golf ball into a cup over and over again, like one of my clients does. It focuses his brain and his mind. And when he's holding that golf club, it feels like home. And then he brings that golf club out on stage with him. And his very first anecdote is golf oriented. So he feels at home and safe, whatever it takes. Muttering mantras to yourself, I'm relaxed and ready. I'm nervous and excited. I've got this. These are the kinds of things that make you feel in control in out of control scenarios. So, and you can use FBI when something goes wrong. Take a moment. Usually I always have water with me. If something goes wrong, like falling off a stage, which I did a few years ago, yes, I did, in front of a video camera too, just to make things worse. Wearing a dress that went whoop up in the air.
Oh,
no. In front of 300 people who all went at the same time as I did. I say that because I was okay. And if you're okay, your audience is okay. If you're okay with what happens, your audience will be okay with it too. So immediately I told them, nothing's broken. I'm good. The only thing that hurts is my ego. And we laughed. And then I practiced FBI. I stood up. I asked for water. I found the floor with my feet. I took a sip of water. And I exhaled. You have to exhale after you drink water. You're forced into it. I got back in touch with my breath. And then I asked myself, what am I here to do right now? What's the task at hand? What's that intention? And I stepped back in. I gave myself the grace of recovery. That's what you have to do. And honestly, it is all about grace. It's all about being okay with not being perfect. If you're not perfect, your audience can go, oh, well, thank God, I'm not either. They can connect with you even better. That's what I believe.
Like that a lot. And thank you so much for giving us all these tools, because the FBI one is easy to really focus on.
Right.
I wiggle my toes just so that I feel grounded, even when I'm speaking like this. The whole breath thing, obviously that takes a while, but we all breathe at some point, and if we're just intentional with that actually makes us calm and be aware of what's actually happening. And then the intention, that's like you say, eyeball to eyeball. When you connect with the audience, then you actually feel them getting what you're saying, and that now gives you energy. Whereas if you're just going there, go through the motions, you go in, say whatever, and then walk out, people are still trying to figure out, wait a minute, what was that person's name again? And you're already finished with your especially people with names like mine, they're trying to figure out,
or like mine.
yes, Eleni, you know what I mean? How do I say it? Is it with an I, or what I mean? And you're already done with your keynote and you haven't communicated and things like that. So all of this has been packaged in your upcoming book, right? Charismatic Presence.
Yes. And you ask, and I literally just received this. This is my copy. The one they ask you to read through for typos. That's why it says, not for resale, not for resale. This book is long in coming. I have 2 other books that I'm very proud of. This one is the one I started to write when I was during the early part of the pandemic. And then my brother got very sick with COVID, and it upended my life and all our lives. And frankly, he passed away actually last March from COVID that had him in its grip for almost 3 years. So I wrote this book in between caring for him when he came to stay with us. And then afterwards, I dedicated it to him because he had this charismatic presence that I talk about in this book. And I chose to finish it to really honor his memory and the fact that I had committed to writing this book. So this book really goes deep within those 5 presence planes. And it was actually, the intention was for it to be out about a month ago or a couple of months ago, but it just has taken longer to get to this stage. So now it looks like it'll be about a month and a half from now will be released. But I have on my website, if you go to my homepage on my website, EleniKelakos.com. I'm sorry, theelenigroup.com. What am I saying? Eleni, ELENIGROUP.com. If you go there, right on that first page, there's a place to sign up to be on the waiting list for this book. I am stupidly excited about this book. People have been pressing me to write this book for years. So thanks for asking about it.
Absolutely. And sorry to hear about your brother, but I think you have obviously embodied everything that you have learned, and in honor to him, you have put that book out there in the world. So, it's such an incredible gift that you're giving to the world right there, and also honoring your brother at the very same time. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on their journey. Now, Elaine, you're somebody who's literally been through it all. I mean, from 35,000 people, stages where you lose your voice, falling off stages, and still finding your ground, being told, oh, you're too tall, you can't even get roles within theater and things like that. Yet you're here, you're the one that's standing in front of the podium delivering this message of confidence and charisma and things of that nature. What is it that other people that haven't had all of these things thrown at them, find difficult about really just showing up? Because so many people have a product to sell, they have a service to provide, a message to deliver, or maybe a big idea that they can make a difference in people's lives. Yet, as soon as the mic is put in front of them, they're literally standing, but their brain is sitting down.
Yes. I'll tell you, I strongly believe, with every fiber of my being, that every single person on this planet is here for a reason. I like to say that we have our purpose stamped on our round little bottoms at birth. And we're given gifts and talents and abilities that are ours to make manifest in service to what we're here to do. And what we're here to do can take on many forms all along the way. But there is this song playing underneath all of it, like this melody. It's a recurring melody. There may be different delivery methods, right, to honor that purpose, but the purpose remains. And we know when we're impelled or compelled to create something, or we have an idea, or we have a business we're trying to put out there, or a message we want to put forth into the world. And we know from that inner prompt that it's important to put it out there. And I believe that we do ourselves and our purpose and our reason for being a great disservice. We dishonor, I call it the song in us, when we hesitate to step into those moments that can help us move our message out into the world, or our idea out into the world. We have to learn how to manage the fear. We have to. Otherwise, we will have brilliant ideas that will never see the light of day. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I will say to them with all the love in my heart, you have to learn how to pitch this, because if you don't, it'll be just yet another great idea wasted, or that someone else will get to first. So there is courage to be gained in making the choice to step forward. And if you need help doing it, if you're broadsided by fear around it, get support from coaches like me. There are many of us out there that can help you with this. But do not let fear, it's just fear. Don't let fear stop you from being who you can be. I've always believed, my little logo on a t-shirt, if I had one, my little motto is be you, aim high. You're here, as I always say, to touch the sky and not to play small. And you always have that choice over and over and over again. Which are you going to choose? Are you going to allow your beautiful, charismatic presence to get small and keep it to yourself? Or are you going to allow it to overflow in its yumminess so that it can affect the world? Whether that world is simply your family around you, or the community around you, or the greater world, it doesn't matter. It's the people that you're meant to serve.
Absolutely. Now, Eleni, obviously you've taken us through this whole journey from the 11-year-old who was singing at the camp grounds and everything else along the line. And now that the book is out, what's next? What are you working on right now that we can be excited about, that now that you've taken us into your world?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. For one thing, I have a new keynote, my charismatic presence keynote, that I am now, see, I have to put my money where my mouth is. I have to help myself spread the message of this book. And that means getting in front of groups as often as I can. So my next big push, if you will, is going after the kinds of speaking engagements that will put me in front of audiences that really need this. So that's one aspect of what I'm doing. And that's always fun for me, because you can only imagine, Prosper, how much I love getting in front of groups. Okay. I don't care whether it's a training for a company or a big keynote. It doesn't matter to me. Once a performer, always a performer. And I love helping people. I love it when I see people learning and growing based on what I'm sharing with them. There's nothing better. And I am exploring, I'm doing my first talk ever on how to use AI to help build talks. I have a whole system that I use, that I've developed to help people put together high-level keynotes and talks. But it dawned on me that maybe I needed to also figure out how to embrace generative AI to work with me, to partner with me, to put presentations together, or aspects of presentations together. So in fact, in 2 days, I will be giving that talk for the very first time. I'm always pushing myself. I mean, it's one of the reasons I got my certified speaking professional accreditation 2 years ago. That was a ridiculous amount of work through the National Speakers Association. I knew that not very many people were bestowed this certificate, and I thought, I am going to get this, and I worked my little buns off to do it. And I do this every once in a while. I just put myself through the ringer. I challenge myself. There's always something on the horizon for me. right?
Absolutely.
That's what it's about.
Absolutely. Now, Eleni, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your enlightening journey and your life story have so much for people to grasp onto, because so many of us, like you said, we've got big ideas that we need to share with clarity and confidence, and we obviously need to engage and get people to enroll into, our work, our ideas, or the philanthropy that we're going to be putting out there. And we cannot say the words that will get those people engaged, and we've literally lost them. Now, for those that are watching right now, if today's conversation resonated with you, please don't keep this to yourself. Share this episode with somebody who's striving to maybe amplify their voice and their presence. And if you're working with a CEO or some C-level executive that might be giving a speech in the next coming weeks or so, just send them this video so that they too will know that, yes, you might miss your words, you might lose the words to the national anthem, but if you compose yourself, ground your feet, breathe, and be intentional about what it is that you're about to say, you too can actually really, really send that message home, and you would have communicated to the people that you want to communicate. So, and if somebody has just shared this episode with you, stay tuned for our next episode where we're going to be exploring ideas on how to cultivate a more happier and fulfilling existence. Now, Eleni, I can't thank you enough yet again for being a wonderful guest on the Online Prosperity Show.
Thank you for asking some of the best questions anyone has ever asked me in a situation like this. I really appreciate you.
Fantastic. Well, maybe I had the FBI going. I told you I wiggle my feet and breathing, but I really appreciate that sentiment in and of itself. And for those that are watching right now, yeah, let's keep the comment section going. Ask Eleni any questions that you might have. Or if you want to share a big idea with more clarity and confidence, be sure to check out the links that I'm going to be putting in the show notes below. And I want you to know one thing. You're not afraid that you might fail to deliver or to speak. It's just that maybe you haven't grounded yourself enough. So that could be the one thing that is missing. Until next time, bye for now.